I'm Reverend Jim Gill, and I've been asked by Bob to say a few words. Gracious, classy, welcoming, well-presented, full of energy, and the family matriarch are just some of the words that come to my mind to describe Margaret. I've known her for several decades. She was a straight shooter. She called things as she saw them, clearly speaking her mind. You could not but like the woman. She had a magnetic personality. She had her own personal flair. Whether it was decorating her lovely home or the way she dressed, she always put her best foot forward. A military wife, a jewelry worker, a wedding store model, and Miss Margaret's modeling. People were attracted to her wherever she lived. She was well liked here in the congregation, a regular attender here at Walton as their many personal and business travels allowed. It would be sad to look out and not see her over there in that pew. But I will see Margaret in my mind's eye. My favorite memories of Margaret go back to that wonderful wedding anniversary event a number of years ago. She was so proud of all of you. The wonderful family that came from 62 years of marriage. We heard all about you. Who was in town? Who Bob and Margaret were off to see. And we heard of the adventures of the grandkids, being such a proud nanny. I admired them for running their printing business for 31 years, well beyond the time when many less ambitious, energetic, and determined people might have chosen a well-deserved retirement. Margaret was a businesswoman. Remember her tempting treats at the candy kiosks in the mall? In addition to Walton Church and our Bronte community, Margaret and Bob and I had connected around something else, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario. Well, we did not know each other at the time. We were both posted in the Sault at the same time. How many times I've driven past that Pine Street Armory in those years that we lived there, but in the many visits I've made to the Sault since, and thought of the two of you. Margaret served Canada for you and I. Well, not in uniform. A military spouse does serve the nation. Truly, from all the postings, both overseas and domestic, in addition to being president of the Royal Canadian Regiment Officers' Wives Club. So today, we gather on this Easter Monday to celebrate Margaret's life with love and respect. It seems an appropriate day to do that. Of course, the long holiday weekend is a time of family. And she looked forward to the gatherings that would take place on the Easter long weekend. As believers, of course, Easter is so critical. For we believe that this beautiful urn is not the end. It's the earthly remains, but the soul, the spirit, Mom has gone to be with those who face death before us. We rest with the assurance that Jesus Christ is risen. And through that, we have the promise of eternal life. We have a series of speakers who are going to share their memories. Debbie McDonald, the eldest daughter, will begin.
Good afternoon. Gotta put the glasses on. As I grew older, I realized my mom and I had a lot of things in common. We were both born in Fredericton, New Brunswick. Oh, and were we proud East Coasters. We are both the eldest daughter. Our best friend was Mom's mother, Violet, who was my nanny. We traveled together. We worked together. We loved the same music. Most of all, we loved both being grandmothers. Mom always talked about her 9 perfect angels. Yeah, right. I know them all. They weren't perfect. But she was also blessed and lucky enough to have 10 beautiful great-grandchildren. We fell in love with the same man, and she not only married him once, but 3 times. On her 25th anniversary and her 50th anniversary. And I was proud to say it was there, and my sisters for all of them. Mom was famous for what Dad called Margaretisms. You all have all heard that? She said, you can tell we're all cut from the same sock. Your mother, your nanny, your wife is with you. She's the whisper of the leaves as you walk down the street. She's the smell of foods coming from her kitchen, and we all enjoyed very good meals coming from my mother's kitchen. She loved to cook. The fragrance of her famous perfume, Oscar, of course. She's the cool hand on your forehead when you're not feeling well. She is Christmas morning. She lives inside your laughter, and everyone here knows how much Mom loved to laugh, and you heard her when she laughed. She's the place you came from, the map you will follow every step you take. Nothing on earth can separate you. Not time, not space, not even death. We can take comfort in knowing that Mom was an incredible woman who was loved and lived a full, happy life.
Karen Eastlick, the middle daughter, will continue the words of remembrance.
I'll take the shortcut. It's treacherous over there. I'm the middle daughter, so yes, I always took my own path, and Mom always followed behind me, showing me the right path.
It's a bittersweet day, but we are here to celebrate and remember an incredible woman. And I said I wouldn't cry.
We all did.
I mean, she was known for her heart of gold, her laugh, her strength, her cooking, always being impeccably put together. And all that shined through when she hosted a party. How she could host a party. Stand back, because it started with the shopping, the cleaning, and the cooking. You could smell the cooking as soon as you walked in the house. Day of, you can bet, that house was in first order, the menu was chosen, the shopping had been done, preparations were ready, and she was dressed to the nines. That's right. It was like she ran a marathon, but she looked like she just stepped out of a magazine. When you came to the door, your coat was whisked away, and before you knew it, you were sitting down with an hors d'oeuvre and a cocktail. Whether you were the first to arrive or the last to arrive, everyone felt like the first. I remember the house could be full, from the den to the living room, from the dining room to the kitchen. No matter where I was, I could hear my mom's laugh over everybody else. Well, she tended to everyone's needs, making sure no one did without. She had everything cleared away, the table was set, meal was ready to be served, and of course you finished with dessert. Everything homemade. But that wasn't the end. That came hours after the laughter and the chatter, sitting around the table or playing games. You ate and drank from the minute you left. That's right, after all that meal there were snacks. And I remember the laughter all the way out the door. We all learned by example from watching this truly giving, strong, beautiful, dedicated woman. I remember her always rooting for the underdog, helping anyone who needed it, and always hosting. Whether it was Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, birthdays, it didn't matter what it was. If it wasn't a special occasion, she made it a special occasion, bringing laughter to every event. And to top of all that, she hosted ladies group, bridge parties, euchre parties, so many military functions, just to name a few. Now, she did all that while raising 3 girls, running a household, and many times in a foreign country, with no family around. But yet, this strong woman celebrated life and how she could laugh. She could laugh with such enjoyment. And that's the laughter that's going to echo in my head for the rest of my life. Because I always felt better and happier after I talked to her or visited her. So, Mom, I'm not saying goodbye, because I'll see you in my heart and in my memories. So today we celebrate your life, and I hope to hear lots of laughter. And to my dad, you may not have gotten to spend the rest of your life with Mom, but take peace in knowing she got to spend the rest of her life with you. That's exactly how she wanted it.
Youngest daughter, Heather Stack, will share her memories.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heather, and I have the privilege of being Margaret's youngest daughter. I'd like to share part of a letter I wrote my mother in 1988. I was sitting in New Jersey. I was getting ready and expected to have my 3rd child, but my first daughter. I was 24 years of age. Mom, sorry, Dad, this letter wasn't for you. That's how I started. I wrote them a lot of letters when I started off in Europe. Mom, it is all your fault that I want a daughter so bad. How could I go through life knowing the wonderful memories you've already shared together as a mother-daughter relationship and not ever get to experience it with my own daughter? You have brought this daughter up to be strong and independent, loving, friendly, and feminine. You are not only a wonderful mother to me, but you are my best friend. Thank you for all the laughters, tears, secrets, and stories we have shared. And Lauren, you are all those things too. That was 37 years ago I wrote that letter. So you can only just imagine how many more memories and years of growing together and sharing the love, the respect, and the dedication and the inspiration that I have grown to love about my mother. We had a lot of things in common as well. We were mothers of 3. We were military wives. We loved to cook and shop. We shared so many recipes, so many shopping trips in the United States. Hair, fashion, we just loved it all. My mom was a very happy, positive role model for me, and I needed that along with my sisters. She was an amazing human being. But my mother was also, I looked up to her and I thought, she's glamorous and loving and so kind, so precious, classy, funny, and generous. She was bigger than life. She had blue, sparkling eyes and a smile that could light up the sky. That was my mom, all wrapped up in a little tiny package. Mom, I will miss you every day for the rest of my life. You raised your daughters well. Don't you worry, we'll take good care of Dad. She always called her grandkids and her great-grandchildren her angels. And now you are our angel, Mom. Please give Nanny a hug and a kiss from your daughters. Thank you.
Don J.C., a military friend, will now share some words.
Well, of those who know me, I'm Don J.C. I may be hard of hearing, but I'll try to make my voice heard today. After all these wonderful words that have been said, it's difficult to follow up. But Bob has given me 45 minutes. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe that was 4.5 minutes. Okay. Well, the first thing I need to do is find my glasses. It is an honor for me to be able to say a few words about Margaret, who I have known, my wife and I, Del, have known for over 62 years. We first met Margaret in Germany when they were in Germany and we were sent to Germany. We met them soon after our arrival there. I've known Bob a bit longer than that. Margaret was a great lady. She was an entrepreneur. You've heard many stories about the things that she's done. I wanted to mention that she has done it alone. She has done it with friends, Sandy Forrest, for example. She's done it with her husband, various entrepreneurships. She was an amazing lady. She has achieved many great successes in her life. As you've heard, she was a passionate person. She loved life and she celebrated it to its fullest. She always asked about our family whenever we spoke. She had a particular fondness for our son. I think that's Margaret and the male sex. She had a fondness for all young men. She was very quick to offer her assistance whenever it was needed. For example, when I was deployed away from home and Del was suddenly hospitalized with appendicitis, Margaret was there to help. Also, when Bob was away on deployment and Margaret was away giving babies or having babies or something like that, Del was there to help out. So we've all been friends for a good number of years. We all know that Margaret was all about family. I think there are over 30 of you in the clan. That's amazing. She was a wife, a mother, a grandmother, great-grandmother, an amazing lady. And I say she was amazing, not only in the technical sense, but also in the truest sense. She was a lady of greatness. I particularly loved Margaret because she always laughed at my jokes. It didn't matter how many times I told the same joke, she still laughed. I thought that was wonderful. And you've heard about the Margaretisms, her words, and one that I particularly was fond of. Whenever somebody was particularly lucky, Margaret would say, "Oh, they must have shoelaces." Yeah. I want to say that there are many stories which can be related. I can't begin to tell all of them here today. But over the years, we have partied together. We have holidayed together. We've laughed together. We've played together. And yes, we've cried together. When her mother passed away and my father had passed away, we did shed many tears. Now, we all actually die twice. First, when the body gives out, but second, when we stop telling stories about the person. And in that regard, we'll be telling stories about Margaret forever, so she will live on forever. I don't like to think of Margaret as being, or having a life interrupted, but rather, I believe it was a life which was fulfilled, and she did to the absolute fullest extent. Bob, I won't take up the next 40 minutes telling stories, but she is going to be absolutely missed, not just by you, but many of us. Thank you.
Granddaughter, Lauren Fetter, I will now call for.
I didn't know the order. Hi, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I am Margaret's youngest granddaughter. I'm one of 9 grandchildren that my Nanny and Papa have, and like they've said, Nanny calls all of her grandchildren her angels. I might lose it, Papa, so I'll try my best. Mine's way too long also, so I'll go fast. My fondest memories of my childhood were going to visit my grandparents and extended family in Canada. Yeah, or the American side, sorry.
We won't hold that again.
Upon arrival, we would see Nanny peeking out the window waiting for us, and our weekend would commence. The first order of business was racing to the refrigerator to find the weekend's itinerary. My papa always had a plan. That's the military man in him. But Papa had a plan for everything. This whole time I thought Nanny didn't have a plan, but I was wrong. She had a plan, and the plan was to support my papa's plans. How did she do this? Phase 1, basic training, AKA get ready for the day. Every morning, like clockwork, Papa would make a hot cup of tea, bring it to Nanny in bed with her makeup bag. The grandkids would run up the spiral staircase to greet her. She taught us very young just how important a skincare routine was, as she dabbed Nivea cream on our cheeks. Phase 2, deployment to the field, AKA get the grandkids and Papa out for some exercise. Nanny would tell us to go outside, and we'd go for a very long walk to the waterfront, where we would skip rocks, chase after Canadian geese, avoiding the poop, and inevitably, one of us would come home with an injury, usually my brother Mike. Nanny would be waiting for our arrival with disinfectant spray, Band-Aids, and a pink lipstick kiss for our cheeks. Always there to support Papa's dangerous missions. I won't tell her about all the other Phase 3, camaraderie, AKA building a team. Now that Nanny was ready for the day, it was time to go out on the town. This could be the mall, the restaurant, whatever. During these adventures, I realized how popular my grandparents were. They knew everyone. The shop owner, the waitresses, the dog walking down the road. Everyone. I always thought they were famous, and they might be, I don't know. Phase 4, compact, aka dinner time with 9 grandkids. Nanny loved to cook, Papa loved to eat, match made in heaven. However, getting the grandkids to all eat one meal was tough. Thank God for Isaac and Owen, because they always ate the food I wouldn't eat. I'd push my plate their way, and Nanny didn't care. She just gave me a bigger slice of pizza or pie at the end of the day because she knew I'd be hungry. She always, I already said that. All right, this is long. Phase 5, accepting defeat, AKA game night. After a busy day, Papa always had a game prepared. Cards, dice, left, right, center, it didn't matter. Nanny always won. Nanny won just about every game we've ever played, and I'm not sure how. Was she that lucky? Did she cheat? I don't know. She did have the Lucky Rabbit's paw in her purse, which she claimed brought her a lot of luck. I think it was a bone by the end of the time. She would take the prize money. Oh, best part about Nanny winning meant that we all won. She would take the prize money and divide it out amongst the grandkids. She never kept it for herself. She taught us all how to share and to give to others. Phase 6, retreat to bed. After Papa told us a bedtime story, Nanny would tuck us in saying, "Good night, my sweet angels." She always called us her angels, and she's always been ours. Angels are protectors, and she's always been doing that, from making sure we were safe to covering us if something broke. Her message to us was to be kind to others, give back to those in need, and be just as beautiful on the inside as we are on the outside. And just don't forget the skincare routine. Angels represent goodness, and Nanny was the epitome of goodness, positivity, kindness, all wrapped into one big pink bow. Add some glitter. Nanny is now our angel, and although she won't be watching from the window as we pull up to come visit, she will be watching from up high.
Now, granddaughter Samantha Owens.
I took the short. Well, I have to say my cousin Laura makes it a little easier to come up here after those guys. Today we gather to honor and remember my nanny, Margaret Barley's Campbell. For 49 years, I didn't know her middle name was Barley's, because the only name that mattered to me was Nanny. And that signified and carried warmth, love, and wisdom that she gave so freely. As the eldest granddaughter, I was lucky to grow up with her guidance and affection. Nanny gave great advice. One thing that always stuck with me when I started dating was, don't marry a 10. You'll always be looking over your shoulder. Marry an 8, be happy. I always found that kind of funny, but now I understand that she was trying to teach me to look at small things and not the appearance. One of the most special memories I have is going to New York with my grandparents and my great-grandmother and millions of other people, which was odd to me because I've never been there. We were in the middle of hustle and bustle in New York, and we hear this lady shouting, "Miss Margaret, Miss Margaret." My grandmother's light stood out amongst all of those other people to a lady that was from her studio day, Miss Margaret's studio days. Nanny had this incredible gift. She always made each of us feel special. And in a big family, that's no small task. No matter how many people were there, she always made sure that we felt like the most important. I am so grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the fact that my son, like me, got to know his great-grandmother, who he fondly called Nanny Campbell, but it came out Camel, because he couldn't pronounce Campbell. They formed a truly special bond, which was easy with her. I remember one of the last times we visited her, and Miles was due back to my mother's for dinner. Nanny, being Nanny, had to give him ice cream, and not just one bowl, she gave him a second. My grandfather pointed out to her that we were due back for dinner and that my mom might be a little upset if he didn't actually eat his dinner. And in true Nanny fashion, she said, "That's okay. You just tell her I gave it to him. I'm allowed to do whatever I want." Who could argue with that? She was a force of nature. Her love, her playfulness made every moment feel like a gift. As the matriarch of our family, Nanny's light guided us all. Her wisdom, her humor, her unwavering love formed the foundation of our family. And even though she's no longer with us, I know her spirit will continue to guide us just as it always has. I will miss her every day. The way she made each of us feel cherished, the joy she brought to every room, and the strength that she showed no matter what circumstance. But mostly, I will miss the sense of security that came from knowing that my nanny would always be there. She will never be forgotten, and her legacy will live on in all of us that were lucky enough to know her. Rest in peace, Nanny. You will always be remembered as the heart of our family. We love you.
I'll invite grandson Michael Higgins forward.
What more could I add to all that's been said about a life well lived? Good afternoon. My name is Michael, one of Nanny's grandsons. I vividly remember a weekend we spent at Nanny and Papa's in Oakville in 1997. We were visiting. It was a normal weekend with many things to look forward to. Our mornings usually would start in similar fashion and culminate with my brother, sister, and I running up to Nanny's bed. As she was putting on her face cream, we would roll all over the bed, ask 1,000 questions, want to use her face cream for good skincare. And she lovingly embraced the chaotic company. Papa would always bring tea. This morning, the news broke that Princess Diana's tragic passing, and it was certainly shocking. Nanny, in many ways to her grandchildren, was royalty. She was elegant and caring, but she certainly would have been the queen. Nanny had a beautiful way of making people feel special. She could capture our hearts and attention with ease. I could never forget her beautiful smile and warm embrace. She would always say, "Oh, Michael, I think about you every day." How could you ask for more? The memories I have of Nanny, which I deeply treasure and are part of who I am, impact the way I live my life, raise my children, and care for others. Her memory will live on in the way we remember her care and love for family and the beauty she brought to life. Thank you, Papa, for caring for my nanny, our nanny, with such great love and compassion these last few years. You have truly honored Nanny. Psalm 73:26 says, "My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart and my portion forever." Nanny adored listening to my wife Maria play her violin. She's asked to play a piece, "The Love of God."
Now husband, father, grandfather, great-grandfather, Bob.
Thank you, Maria. That's not the first time you played for Nanny, but I'm sure she heard every note today. Thank you so much. The year was 1960. I was about to graduate from officer training, and I was told upon graduation you could select the unit that you would like to join in the Canadian Army. I had already decided. I had picked a unit that was out somewhere in Alberta that had an airborne role, and I could jump out of airplanes. The very day I was to make that choice, an officer that put us through the training came to me and said, "Campbell, I'd like you to consider joining my regiment, the Black Watch." I said, "Well, sir, where is the Black Watch?" He said, "They're in Gagetown, New Brunswick." "Where's that?" "Well, it's near Fredericton, the capital." "Oh," I said, "do they have an airborne role?" He said, "Campbell, this is the 2nd Battalion, the Black Watch, Royal Highland Regiment of Canada. They wear kilts. They don't jump out of airplanes." I tell you that story because he came out with one other thing that changed my mind about where I want to go. He said, "Campbell, you should know that that regiment is destined to go to Germany next year." I joined the Black Watch. I wanted to see the world. Now I tell you that story because if it hadn't happened that day, I never would have got to New Brunswick. I never would have got to go into Fredericton, and I never would have got to meet Margaret. And I never would have had the family you see here today. It was the most wonderful day of my life. When I got settled down there, a buddy of mine went into Fredericton, and I did meet her. We were at a club. There she was with a group of friends on the other side of the room. And I said to my buddy, "I'm going to ask that girl in the black and white dress to dance with me." I went to her table and asked her, "Would you kindly have this dance?" She looked at me with those sparkling blue eyes and a smile that made me melt. We got to the dance floor. Ladies and gentlemen, that was it. She told me later that when we danced and you put your arm around my waist, I knew. That's what she said to me. And I can tell you, I knew also. And what a life we've had. We got married. I took her away from her family, and I took her away from Fredericton. I took her away from Canada. We agreed that we should have family. I told her I wanted 4 sons. She gave me 3 daughters. 3 beautiful daughters, and I thank the good Lord that they're still with me here today, and they are the loves of my life too. She had no idea what it meant to become a military wife. Because we were an operational unit. We were away on exercise. We were away on courses. We were away on missions. Sometimes for weeks, sometimes for months. 2 tours in the Middle East for 7 months each time. We were away from home. And she, along with the other military wives, learned how to handle the household, raise the children, do the shopping, handle the finances, and then help others when they needed help, like they gave her when she needed help. It was an amazing community. When we were home, we had a wonderful social life in the military. The officers' mess was our club. We went there often. We made friends with people that we've known now for over 60 years. And I want to tell you the day that I was called into my commanding officer's office, and he said, Campbell, you're being moved out of the regiment. You're going to brigade headquarters and you're going to work for the general as a staff officer. Yes, sir, 3 times no. Bags full, away I went. And after reporting in, I went to Margaret and said, Margaret, I've now got a new job, and we're going to go to the officers' mess on Friday, but it won't be the Black Watch mess. It'll be the brigade mess, and there'll be people there that will be just meeting for the first time. So we went. And it wasn't long after we were there, the general's wife came over to Margaret, welcomed her to the mess, and said, Margaret, you should know that I have started a ladies' choir. We practice once a week, and we perform once a month, either on the base or in the local community, and I would like you to join the choir. Margaret said, Mrs. Duray, I'm sorry, but I can't sing. She stepped up, looked Margaret in the eye and said, Margaret, everybody can sing. She joined the choir. Now, after all those years, both away from home and in home, our career came to an end. There's so many stories I can't tell. We lived in so many places. We've had so many tributes. We've had phone calls, we've had cards, we've had letters, we've had people personally come to talk to me about Margaret. And the one common thing was how much she helped people. And I'd like to tell the story about when we were together in London, Ontario. Again, I was away, and the commanding officer's wife thought it was important to get the ladies together for social events at her evening. And she called me a few days ago and said, Bob, you know, every time I did that, Margaret was there first. She helped out with the drinks, she helped out with meeting people. She kept them laughing in the living room while I was getting dinner, and on and on it went. But then she said, there was one thing Margaret could not do. I said, oh. She said, yeah, one year, she tried all winter, and she still was not successful. And I said, well, what was that? She could never teach me to play bridge. No, she was a good bridge player at the time, too. Well, after the military, we did move to Oakville. And what a wonderful place to live. We met Reverend Gill, and we joined his church. That's 35 years ago. In fact, he's been a minister here for 40 years. We just celebrated that 40th just last year. And we got to know the people in the community, got to know our neighbors, and we wanted to get out and about. And one night, I took her to an event at the Oakville Conference Center, just up the road. And it was a wonderful evening. There was about 200 people there, and they had a comedian on stage. She was good. She could get people laughing. And at one stage in her act, she stopped and looked at the audience and said, I would like to have a show of hands. How many couples do we have here tonight that have been married for 10 years? And hands went up. 20 years, she said. Hands went up. 30 years, a few hands went up. 40 years, I put my hand up and I got hit in the ribs with her elbow. She didn't like attention like that. But then I looked around and said, oh my goodness, I'm the only hand that's up. And I became the focus of that woman's attention. She came across the stage and she says, well, sir, congratulations. And to what do you attribute this long, successful marriage? I stood up and I said, I was away a lot. But I'll tell you this, I had no idea I was going to talk to anybody about my marriage that night. I had nothing prepared. I stood up and that's what came out of my mouth. And you should know that when I said that, I didn't say it to get a laugh. That's what was in my mind. That I was away a lot. And along those absences, you gotta remember, there was just as many reunions. And I really believe that we began to appreciate each other more after we got away and got together again. And I think it made our love stronger. And so, as a result, I really meant what I said. I didn't mean it to be funny, but it was important to me. She loved it here in Oakville. She loved it when her family visited and the angels came. She loved where we lived, on the lake, where she could see the water every day. She could see the sailboats. And above all, she could see that sunshine come up every day that it came up, all day long. She told me every day how much she loved being there. And she told me every day, many times a day, how much she loved me. That meant a lot, that she had a happy life. So, we're separated again. This time it was she that left. And it's not easy. And I know she's in good hands. And I know that from now until the time we have that one more reunion, she will be here in my heart. And I will always love her. And I will tell her that every day until we get together. Thank you so much. God bless.
In a moment, I'm going to conclude this celebration of life with words of commendation. But before I do that, an invitation to all of you here to join together with family and friends down in Bronte Hall for a chance to visit together, to share some food and refreshment, to look at some photographs and to look at a virtual tribute on the screen. The hall is down the center aisle, turn right, and keep going. Please join us in this reception. Let us pray. Loving and merciful God, we entrust Margaret to your mercy. You loved her greatly in this life. Now that she is freed from all cares, Margaret, happiness and peace forever. The old order has passed away. Welcome her now into paradise, where there will be no sorrow, no more weeping or pain, but only peace and joy. We be with Bob and their family in this time of sorrow, as they go through life now without this parent, wife, grandmother, great-grandmother, but always with them in their hearts and minds.